It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Live from IRC, Jeremy Weiss here. I'm here with Ryan Lane, and he is the founder of Dream Beard. If you didn't notice his beard, it's fantastic. Tell people about your beard first.
Man, I've been growing this luxurious thing for about 5.5 years now. Okay. Yeah, man, I love it, dude. My wife's into it. Everybody seems to be into it, so I just keep it.
So you started with $46.
Yeah, man, it was wild. We left Ohio from a previous job, had no clue what we were going to do, and applied to over 400 jobs, didn't hear back from any of them. And I was like, I know what, I'll start a business with the last $46. That's the best thing you could do, right, to provide for your family. And, and somehow it worked out. We were living with my father-in-law at the time. We started Dream Beard on the dining room table of his house, and it grew to where we were having employees, like with pop-up tables in the living room, while her dad was watching like American Idol. So it was a very wild experience.
What was the initial idea? What were you going to produce?
So it was beard oil. We were the first person to ever create beard oil. So before then, I had a little beard, and I always would put like lotion in it and stuff like that. And my wife would be like, "Man, it smells like the inside of a dog's ear. Like, you got to figure this out, you know?" And so I had a bunch of just different weird thoughts in my mind over the past year before we started that just kind of gave me the idea. And I was like, you know what? Like, why not a product for beards? You know, that's oil based. And so that's kind of how we got started. It was wild.
So I want to hear some of the challenges, but what helped it take off? Because you started on the kitchen table, essentially.
Yeah, man. I think that it was definitely social media back when social media was really like rich, you know, like, so we jumped on Instagram, and I was a musician for 10 years too. And I knew how impactful it was to get a musician or a band to like talk about something, because everyone that they followed would just be into it. And so that was kind of where I really started. It was kind of before influencers was like a thing, you know? And so we hit that hard, and within 3 months on Etsy, we were in 30 countries, and our Instagram blew up. Kind of almost overnight, we were getting into 6-figure followers like within like a year. So yeah, I mean, it was just, I think we just kind of hit the stride right and kind of had this game plan of like, let's get, people who matter excited about our product, and then they'll kind of like talk about it for us. So
who was influential in helping that? Because you probably touched a lot of different influencers at the time.
So like specific influencers? Yeah.
Types of,
yeah.
You mentioned musicians. I don't know if there's other categories of people that were influential.
Yeah, I think the biggest ones, honestly, were like ZZ Top, Kid Rock, like those kind of dudes, like were really big and influential. But really, we never really hit too hard on any other sector for a while. I would say that for the first few years, we just kept hitting people that we knew, famous skateboarders, all that kind of stuff. Anyone that at the time that had a beard, we like were reaching out to them hard.
So what's your background as a musician?
So I was actually a pastor for 10 years and walked away. Some people would say I like lost faith, but I would say expanded. And, and so I had always done like worship music and things like that, and traveled the world. And
how did you get into being a pastor?
That was, when I was 16, I was a hoodlum selling drugs, and I was facing prison time, got kicked out of school, and I was living with my grandma waiting for my sentence, and she went to church, and so I went to church. And just, I think at a young age, I never had like, maybe a role model to look up to, and so the youth pastor really impacted me, and it kind of just sent me on a spiral of like, maybe this is what I want to do with my life. And I just kind of was like, and just kind of went into got a theology degree, and did pastoral work for like a good 10 years, and I still have a lot of respect for it. I mean, I don't really go to church anymore, but I have mad respect for it, and I think it gave me a lot of morals, and it also, I think, really helped me a lot in my business, because it taught me how to like interact with people in a real way, and like get on their level and like understand them and what they're going through and try to meet those needs,
That's fascinating. So what made you decide to transition? So you've been doing it for 10 years. It's a long time. What made you transition from being a pastor to something else?
It was really weird because, so I had married my wife, and we were only together for about 7 months, or married 7 months, and we were up in Ohio. I was a youth pastor, and Initially it was like a gradient, like a gradual thing. It wasn't like I'm not doing this anymore. I think we moved back down to Atlanta. We didn't have any plans. I kind of arbitrarily just thought I was going to be a pastor still somehow, or maybe find a church. And when that didn't happen, I was like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I'll work anywhere. Like, I got to do something, you know? And so I think Dreambeard actually was the catalyst. Like, it just kind of happened. And I still worked in a church for like a while with that. And then as it grew, I was like, man, I can live off of this. And then I think it was just like a transition where I was like, I think this is just a new chapter in my life, you know? And so, yeah.
So was your wife helping you in the business too?
Yeah, man, 100% still does. Like, I'm here in Chicago, she's in Atlanta, still just, you know, doing it all, man. And so we've all kind of had our hands starting from $46 and everything. So she's capable of pretty much any operation at Dreambeard, but right now she's more of like overseeing, because I'm getting a lot more into like consulting and just like, I don't know, the podcast. Yeah, I'm just a face, having fun. Exactly, man.
So I kind of want to hear about the products.
Yeah.
What do you guys have?
Yeah. So we started out with beard oil. We have a very extensive line, you know. Yeah, we have like the lumberjack, the mechanic, the carpenter. That was the original three. Now we've branched out and done another thing with influencers. This was before influencers. Is we found a couple really key, cool bearded guys, and we created like special beard oils for them with like their face on it. So we have like the gentleman beard, has my friend Justin on it. We have the bearded barber. It's like this famous barber guy, and so we did that. And now we do like a seasonal thing. So like every quarter we produce like a whole new scent, new product that's based on the season, and it changes every year like the seasons, and so we do that, plus like shampoos and conditioners and flex paste for your hair and hairspray for styling competitions and things like that.
I've seen some of your styles on Google Images.
Yeah. So yeah, man, and then also, and obviously, you know, we're more of like this whole cultural brand, really. So obviously we do like t-shirts and things like that. We've sponsored skateboarders and had skateboards made and things like that. So we've done a lot of weird stuff. Lately I've been into grilling a lot. So we have a seasoning called beard trimmings, and so we just do all kinds of weird little products all the time, you know. So
what are your personal favorites? What do you like?
I mean, obviously the beard oil is a staple for me, you know. Probably the lumberjack or the mechanic, the two originals.
What's the difference?
The lumberjack is more of like a pine base, you know, so it's going to have like that kind of vibe to it. It's like sweet kind of. The musk, the mechanic's kind of like that musk, but not musk in like the bad way, you know, but musk in the good way. I would say it's like the most natural you can get to like a cologne. So
some of the challenges. Obviously there's been from $46 kitchen table, there's been a lot of upward trajectory. What's been some of the tough points?
You know, growing pains, man. Like anytime you grow, it takes more cash flow. It takes more this, more that. I can't say it on camera, but I'll get real gushy with you. I was working with a Fortune 500 company that was super exciting. I was going to be in every Walmart and Target in the world, and worked with them for 6 months, and then they actually ended up stealing our ingredients and just like leaving us, and they left us with about six-figure debt, a little over six-figure debt, and it almost crippled our business, and we had to fight through that for like 2 or 3 years, and we actually just paid that debt off in April. So
looking at that sucks, first of all. Looking at that, is there anything you look back that would have triggered it? Like if you were going to another big retailer, or is it just happened because it happened? Was there any like signs that was going on?
You know, I was so naive at the time, and I was just excited about the opportunities. I think I was lost in that, and I wasn't being very mindful or like observant of the little things. I look back now, and yeah, I definitely see some like telltale signs that you should be careful in business, you know, because especially if you start having success, you're always going to have some wolves that are going to start coming out of the woods, and they're going to start kind of sniffing you out and like, oh, well, how can we partner with them or use their like platform to better ours? And so you just got to be careful with that, man. Nowadays, I'm very relational. Anything that I'm doing with anybody, I'm going to know you very well. Like we're going to be friends, and it's a very relational business for me now.
And you guys have a podcast where people can check out interviews. So talk about that for a second, and some of your favorites.
Yeah, man. So we started a podcast last fall called Life Gets Hairy. within the first 3 weeks, we were in the top 200 on iTunes. We landed at number 28, and we've been doing well. We have about 500,000 followers or listeners, whatever you call them. And yeah, man, some of my favorites are some of the weird ones, like the psychedelic psychotherapist, and I've had like famous chefs on where we didn't talk about anything to do with food, but how he was up in the mountains with his father and he almost died trying to hunt mountain goats, and like, crazy stories like that. And yeah, I'm always like, most of the stories, if you see someone you know, a famous person, or maybe someone you don't know, don't expect it to be a story about what you think it's going to be about. I'm always trying to dig into something kind of really deep. Essentially what happened is being a pastor for 10 years, having a business, and then watching my dad go through cancer, having my first son. I was like, what is this all about? Like, what is reality? Why are we here? Does anyone know? Like, what happens? Why do we work so hard? At the end, we die. Like, and so those are the kind of the...
People are coming to you for those answers, right? The youth pastor.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting a religion. No, I'm just kidding. No, but essentially, man, like that's it. Is like I want to be real with people, and just have that real human interaction, So
Ryan, from the youth pastor days, what are some of the toughest cases? Like, it sounds like you needed some guidance early on, and then you went to help. What were some of the tough cases you had to help youth with in the youth pastor days?
Man. Dude, it's rough, man. I think one thing I realized in being a youth pastor is like, you just don't understand, like even at this exhibit, everyone's got their suits on and stuff, but you just don't know like what in the world could actually be going on with someone inside or what they're dealing with. I've had youth that, watched I had a youth tell me one time, at a dinner, just me and him hanging out. He's like, he confided in me, and I didn't know where his brother had been. And apparently, like, him and his brother were being molested their entire life by their father. And then he watched his brother shoot his dad in the face with a shotgun and kill him. And then he had to watch his brother go to prison for helping them get out of this situation. And it was like, what do you tell a kid like that?
What do you tell a kid like that? What do you...
At the time, I still actually keep up with him. And but at the time, man, I was just like, look, like, I think that life is hairy and there is no right or wrong decisions, and it's really terrible what you went through, but I'm here for you, and you do have a real person that really does care about you now, and we're going to get through these emotions that you're dealing with, and maybe it's causing you to react in a certain way, and we're going to be more mindful about this, and I think honestly in the end it's love. It's like just giving
love. Be there for the person.
Yes, just be there and love people. And I think even now with the podcast and everything, it's like that's all I am, and I've learned that like I'm kind of all things, and we all are. We're all potential evil. We're all potential this, and it's like we're all things trying our best to distill it down into love, And so I just try to live in the moment, be here, be present, and love people.
Yeah, and you come across like that. You spoke today.
Yeah.
Talk about a little bit about what you spoke about to the audience at RC.
Yeah, so I talked about building loyalty through high-touch customer service, and we talked a little bit about the podcast and different things like that. One of the big ones was handwritten notes. So this was obviously now it's kind of more widely used in the e-com world, but when we started, I had never seen anything like it, and I think I was just genuinely appreciative of people, and so it wasn't like a business plan. We were just like, wow, but people really care about this, because people will throw away promotional material, but I have people with notes that keep them from like 4 or 5 years from the founder. Like, I have a founder, a note from the founder, and it's a big deal for them. I've actually wrote over 1 million myself, wow. So it's something where I spend maybe even an hour a day still to this day in my office writing handwritten notes. So
it's amazing. So do you incorporate, do you talk about the youth pastor in your talk at all, or not really?
I didn't this time because we just had such a small...
You totally should.
I think so too. I think it's fun, and I think it's very unique. But yeah, I didn't have enough time in the talk to really kind of bring that up because I knew it was going to be like a can of worms, So,
where should we point people online for the podcast? Where should we point people online for Dreambeard?
Yeah, so we're real social driven. So like Instagram would be Dreambeard. We do a lot of our Life Gets Hairy stuff on there. We do have Life Gets Hairy Instagram too, but we found that we already have 200,000 followers on Instagram. Why try to create another platform? Let's just use that one. And but dreambeard.com, lifegetshairy.com. You can find our podcast pretty much anywhere. You can search Life Gets Hairy on iTunes, things like that. So
last question, Ryan. A proud moment from his journey. From youth to youth pastor to jobs to you founding this company, your kitchen table. What's been a proud moment?
Man, that's a loaded question. I think that my most proud moment is when I had my son and I realized that meaning is created and that success is subjective. And so I realized in that moment that I wanted to spend my entire life investing back into my family. And that's what really mattered to me. Like all this and all the business and all that, it really doesn't matter to me. Like I love it and I love my customers, but my meaning in life is my family. And so I want my ceiling to be my son's floor. And so that was my most proudest moments, watching my son being born.
You know, I have to ask, since you're a youth pastor, you know, how do you answer the question yourself about, like you said before, you know, I walk around and, you know, why am I working so hard? Why am I doing all this? How do you manage that question from a, you know, short-term perspective? You're like, okay, why am I here? I'm going to just go to a Cubs game. We're in Chicago. Let's just have fun, to I need to grow my business long-term.
Yeah.
How do you balance that internally?
So almost like the life-work balance.
Yeah,
kind of thing?
exactly. Because if you go too far on one end of, well, you know, I'm working, why am I working so hard? I'm going to go have fun. You can go to the fun end. Or if you're like, you know what, I really want to provide for my family and move forward, you can go too much on the work end.
Yes.
So where you fall in the spectrum, and how do you balance that in your head?
Yeah, that's a great question, because, and that was actually a hard lesson I had to learn, because for a while when I was going through all those emotions and I was like, you know what, screw all this, like I just want to be with my family and I want to love and all this kind of things, I probably got too much into the work, out of the work life. I was like, life was like way up here and work was down here, and it showed in our business for a while, and I noticed that and I was like, oh man, like, well, we got to pay the bills, like we live in this reality, whatever it is, like there's, you know, we've created this where you have to pay bills and have a life. And so that was kind of a perception shift for me. I was like, okay, well, here's how I kind of actually identify it. It's like, what do you actually want in life? And so for me, it was family. So I look at family, right? And then I think to myself, okay, that's the goal. So what do I have to do so I have more time with that? And so that's kind of how I balance it, is like, I know I've got to do my stuff and I know I've got to be diligent, I've got to work hard, but the reason why I'm doing that, and I think that's what's so imperative, is that you know the reason why you're doing that is so that I can be with my family, or maybe it's you have a hobby, or maybe it's whatever it is, you want to be with your friends, you want to travel, like you got to identify that and then understand that's why you're doing that, so that you can have more of that.
All right. Live from RC, fantastic. Check out Dreambeard and their podcast. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks so much, man.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.